Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode number 20 of HeroesHype Live, the water cooler of the Heroes of the Storm community. My name is Lauren. It's my pleasure to be joined by Argy, man. You look like you got a little bit of a tan going on there, man. How you doing tonight?
I waved in everything, and it's just showing that picture. I even changed my Skype picture, too.
To be fair, I whispered Laval and was like, consider this your warning. So you got your warning, Laval. But glad to hear you're doing well, man. We're in for a treat, man. We got a special guest with us this evening. LFM's own, the human highlight reel, as I like to call him. Draded, how's it going tonight, man?
Oh, it's going great, man. How are you?
I'm excited. I'm really excited. I'm doing really well. The moment I heard you guys were going into HCC, I was like, all right, we got to talk to them again because, you know, HeroesHype, we've kind of chronicled your journey in a lot of ways. Going through the amateur scene, we followed you through the open division. Got to talk to you a little bit before then. And now here we are at the mountaintop. So first things first, congratulations, man.
Well, thank you so much.
Happy to have you on the show. This is HeroesHype Live, so those hanging out in the chat, feel free to get involved in the conversation. We very much enjoy interaction. One thing that I really wanted to give Draded the floor in a lot of ways is talking about the emotional journey and the overall progression that's led to LFM going into the HGC. Something that we say a lot here, Argy, is that teams, you know, we watch it as viewers and spectators. We see these teams move around and stuff, and it's like, all right, cool. But we don't know, like, the human element behind it. So I really think it's cool to give context to how the players see these events as human beings. So without any further ado, here we go. So, Drayden, you know, we got to talk to you for a little bit before going into the open division. Crucible's coming up. You're going up against HeroesHype Esports. How was the overall atmosphere with your team at that moment?
It was so-so.
Mm-hmm.
We were scrimming at the time. We obviously had never beaten HeroesHype in one of the open division tournaments before, so we were optimistic. Of course, we knew we had what it takes to beat them, but it's tough when you go against an opponent that he's never been able to beat before, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how some might feel intimidated by that, but you guys put up a heck of a performance. Definitely surprised the heck out of people. How did that part of it feel?
That felt amazing, honestly. Beating HeroesHype in what was basically the finals, not the grand finals, of course, but what was be the finals of the tournament, might have been one of the biggest upsets, biggest wins of my career so far, because just knowing that we were already secured into that Crucible spot was a huge boost of confidence for us.
Absolutely, man. I watched that match. I was floored. I wasn't entirely surprised. I always had belief in you guys as a team. And, you know, as someone that's been following you guys for a long time, I was really proud to see you guys showed up and showed your potential. We go into the Crucible. There were some internet issues, I believe, going into Game 4. That was rough. How did your team rally back from that? Like, how did that conversation go?
That was a very unfortunate occurrence. But honestly, the team didn't take it that bad. You know, we had beat them before. We knew we could do it again. And we just like, all right, you know, let's just pretend like we lost last game. Let's just bring it back. You know, let's keep morale high. And, you know, one of the great things about LFM, we don't really tilt. We're kind of like, all right, you know, what mistakes did we do? What can we improve on? Maybe was the draft an issue? You know, it's all sorts of events, but we don't really tilt. And that's one of the great things about us.
That untiltable nature is something I would like to see in my Hero League games, right, Argy?
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
We go through the Crucible. HeroesHype Esports advances. You guys go in, and you weren't able to secure the victory. We've talked about this overall progression before going out last time, but there was also a different element to it because last year, even in Def's entrance in the HGC, I think surprised a lot of people. That wasn't necessarily something that stuck out in the rules to a lot of people, that the second team would be able to move up should a team disband. Did you guys have that in mind at any part coming out of the Crucible?
We did, actually. We'd heard rumors of LagF might be disbanding, might be going to another team, so we knew that there was a possibility that we would get into the HGC, but I remained pretty skeptical, to be honest. I wasn't going to get my hopes up or anything like that. Just say, let's bank on this small percentage chance. I just had to look at myself and just see if I really wanted to continue the HOTS journey.
I bet, man. In the chat, Alex49 says, Drayden, got a fan out here. How's it going, by the way, Mantis? Like you said, you were skeptical. There was this chance that you guys can make it into the HGC. I feel like coming out of what you guys in the competitive scene like to call a split. Maybe I'm using that right. Maybe I'm not. I feel like there's always a measure of uncertainty. Like, do we keep the band together? Do we start to split up? Do we find roster changes? Did any of that conversation go on? Did you guys say, like, if we continue, we want to continue as this lineup?
That's a really good question. I think the day after we lost, it was obviously a pretty disappointing loss. Like, we had a group me where everybody's a member of, we talk and stuff. Some people left the group me. Obviously a pretty upsetting loss. We actually didn't talk at all about whether we wanted to continue as a team or disband. We were like, let's wait it out. Let's see how the split ends up happening. Let's see if we remain as a team or not. Personally, I didn't really talk to any other teams. I wasn't even sure that I wanted to continue playing HOTS or not because, a new upcoming school semester and all that. And I wasn't really sure. So there wasn't much talk about entering into other teams at the time.
Yeah, imagine. That's got to be like a pretty interesting emotional journey. Like, you get out of a thing like that, there's uncertainty, you don't know what's going on. You're coming off of the loss, so as a competitor, you feel some kind of way even just about that. It's got to be a little disconcerting, right?
Yeah, especially after you've been going at it for, in Drayden's case, like 8 months, 9 months, and having already lost the chance once, like getting that second blow, especially against an Eventic a second time.
Yep.
And it's really disheartening, but
you're out
but here
there.
I am.
You're out there trading.
Obviously,
you're living your life, and then you get contacted. Little birdie swoops in and says, "Hey, Drayden, LagF disbanded." I imagine there was a slight turnaround in how you were feeling at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, the moment I got that email, I was like, is this real? Like, is this actually happening? Like, everything changed in that moment. I mean, I had plans for the upcoming semester. I was just going to go back to school. I was not going to play open. And then once I got that email, I mean, everything changed. I mean, it was crazy.
Did you call your parents and be like, "Oh my God"?
I actually, once I got that email, I was like, I still don't believe this until they announce it for real. I was like, I'm not gonna believe it. I'm still gonna remain skeptical. And then the day that they had actually announced it, I was like, all right, this is actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, I bet they all jumped back in that group me.
Yeah, we had to add them back.
Welcome back to the group me. So you guys make it into the HGC. But like you said, going into the playoffs and stuff, you were scrimming. Were you scrimming HGC teams primarily?
We were primarily scrimming HeroesHype at the time because once the open playoffs ended, a lot of the open teams end up disbanding, which is what usually happens. So they're not scrimming anymore in the off season. And also, some of the HGC teams aren't scrimming anymore because only the top 3 or top 2 teams got to go to the international event. So they didn't want to scrim us because we weren't good enough. And then HeroesHype, they were scrimming them a little bit, but HeroesHype was our primarily our scrum partners at the time.
That's cool. You guys make it into the HGC, and that's always a weird time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they BlizzCon comes and goes, but yeah, like over half the teams in North America are not going to Anaheim, so they're like, well, we're not really competing again until January.
Right.
And we're like, and some of the teams in the middle, like, we're not going to BlizzCon, we're not going to the Crucible, we're just kind of here.
Yeah.
I bet that poses a certain kind of challenge for your team, LFM, and want to prepare for the HGC.
It's kind of hard because I think Laguf's last 2 matches, especially when they played against Even in Death didn't want to show anything. Laguf didn't want to show anything. It was just quick games, not much to be seen in the draft. I mean, of course, we analyzed some of their old replays, but we didn't really know. I mean, obviously, the meta had shifted from the time into like a more of a double support meta at the time. So we didn't really know what they were going to run. And they'd obviously seen our play in the Crucible, or in the open playoffs, which gave them a little bit of an edge. But going into the Crucible, it's a bit of a toss up sometimes.
I can imagine, man. One thing that we haven't really touched on, and you brought up a really cool point. Like, going into the playoffs and stuff, you guys are imported support, but now you're once again LFM. Would you care to give us some insight on how that progression happened, like how we got there?
Yeah, of course. LFM actually contacted us maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month before the Open Division finals, and they were like, hey, contingent on you guys making it into the HGC, we want to sign you. And so that's basically what happened. So we came into the Crucible as imported support, but under the notion that if we did qualify, we were going to be LFM. And then, of course, we didn't make it, but then we did. So now we're LFM again.
Something that that Argy and I try to bring up in HeroesHype Live is the idea that esports as a player is not just about the game. Being represented by a brand is huge. Did knowing that if you guys made an HGC, LFM would pick you guys up, did that add any pressure or affect how you went into the playoffs and things like that?
I don't think so. I think just the motivation of getting into the HGC, I think, is all that was on my mind at the time. I wasn't really concerned about getting a sponsor. I mean, getting a sponsor, it gives you an extra little bit incentive on the side to, of course, maybe get a little more money on the side, get a little bit more of a representation of yourself. But my goal was to make it into the HGC. And that was my primary focus at the time.
That's cool. Something that I was really curious to pick your brain about. You find yourself in a unique, albeit not original, position in that your team didn't qualify through the Crucible, but by a team disbanding, you make it into the HGC. Like we talked about a little bit before, this was very much uncharted territory last go around with Even in Death. How did you watch Even in Death as a team going through the phase that they were a part of the HGC, and what lessons do you feel maybe your team got seeing how they handled themselves?
I think Even in Death, for the most part, had a pretty poor performance in the HGC overall. I think they definitely improved as a team. Of course, you're going to improve over time, scrimming and playing against these good teams in a tournament setting. But I think the circumstances of which they got into the HGC in general were pretty disappointing. They obviously fell pretty hard to No Tomorrow at the time when they played them in the Crucible. And honestly, they didn't have a lot of players that people liked at the time. Obviously, if you got someone like McIntyre, like Corone on your team, who have a a big following and a fan base they're going to be more hyped about. So maybe if they had those players on their team instead of some of their other players at the time, could have been maybe an easy going. But of course, Reddit was not very nice in general to Even in Death. And, you know, going into the HGC as not qualifying in, you know, the best sort of way, in my opinion, is a bit of a bummer. But at the same time, I think anyone that watched our series against Lag F at the time knows that we have potential and we can be a good team. It just we need a little bit more time. We need a little bit more practice, a little bit more motivation. And seeing that, I think I've already seen a better response to us going into the HGC than Even in Death. And I think that's because people see the potential in us that we can have as a team.
Absolutely. Ari, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you know, like you said, Dreaded, Reddit court had its opinion about, you know, how Even in Death came into the fold, and there was a lot of consideration for how they performed going into the playoffs. However, imported support at the time, you guys flat out beat HeroesHype going into the Crucible. That is an objective truth that cannot be denied. And you also had a heck of a performance in the Crucible itself. So I feel like a lot of that, the skepticism that Even in Death may have faced going into the HGC for them is not there to any same degree. Would you agree with that, Artie?
I would. Looking back at Even in Death, they beat the top seeded team and then beat imported support in very poor conditions. And that was the big thing, I think, for everyone, is that it was 4 a.m. and that's when they won. And then they just get this, like, I don't know if shoo-in is the correct word, but kind of like a free pass, basically, and got crushed in the Crucible. Whereas this time, both Crucible teams put up good fights. HeroesHype winning, of course. And it was much more exciting for the viewer. So I think that's part of why, as Dre had said, like, the viewers see them and they think this team has potential. They can do well. And I want to see that happen, you know? Like, I want to see you guys take on one of the top 3, top 4 teams in NA. And, like, you might not necessarily win. I hope you do. But, like, putting up a good fight and making the series exciting is what I want to see.
And
I think,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think, you know, after LagF disbanded, I think we were the clear next choice, I guess. You know, behind HeroesHype, behind Even in Death, I think we were the clear next choice, which was a factor in going into it. The third open team in the open playoffs, Donkeys, we 3-0'd them, you know, pretty quick fashion. And I think just going into, we were the clear next best team, whereas Open in Death at the time, or Even in Death at the time, may not have been.
It's a very fair consideration. Like you said, you know, the way you guys went into the HGC, Mantis says Reddit has completely uneducated, unbiased opinions. Always, this is Reddit Corp we're talking about, man. This is hot.
Yeah, I'm on Reddit. I'm not uneducated.
LFM will get a few games for sure. I would definitely agree with that. Like you said, Dre, you guys have the potential, and you showed it going into the Crucible. So I think a lot of that, I guess I just wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of address that potential sentiment. Like you said, you guys don't go in through the means that you wanted to, but this is now your opportunity and your chance, and I think you guys are gonna do pretty well with it. Real Crunchu says, "Who's the best looking HGC team? Have you looked at the bottom of the screen?"
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're looking at Crunk. Come on.
Exhibit A, case closed, open and shut. But you're now in the HGC, and you know, you guys have played against HeroesHype Esports a lot. You scrimmed them going into the playoffs in the Crucible itself. You're friends with a couple of the members in particular, Ishbu and BBJ. When you guys showed up at the media summit, and you all walk up and you're like, all right, we're all in HGC, albeit like not on the same team, not the original way we tried to do it, but here we all are. How did that conversation go?
Yeah, at the summit for sure. Me and BBJ hung out a lot. Me and him, I think we're just good friends. We just click well together. We're just make good conversation. We're just good buddies. And it was awesome to see like 3 of the 5 original LFM members making the HGC because we knew that we had that potential to make it in. And so it was just a nice big family reunion, honestly. It was a lot of fun.
I bet, man. Last week we got to talk to Reno for a little while. The manager.
Of course. How can I forget about Reno? Yeah.
And I just, the whole idea of that media summit, you go in there, you take the pictures and things, you do your interviews and stuff. While I'm sure it's very cool to have that like behind the scenes kind of vibe, it's like, this is for you. It's like my first time going in HGC. Like this is my first time kind of doing all this stuff. The emotional weight behind all that is always really interesting to me because it's a first time experience. It's one of those first times, in my opinion, that really like, this is real. Like this, like this is not a hypothetical anymore. We are an HGC team now. So it's cool there, that you hung out with BBJ a lot. You guys are still friends and things like that. Do you feel a sense of rivalry with HeroesHype Esports as a team since you scrimmed them a lot and now you guys are in HGC together?
It's more of a you could call it a rivalry, but I think of it more as a friendly rivalry, more of like a friendship. It's more like you throw a couple punches, I'll throw a couple punches, but in the end, the winner. It's not a big deal. I don't think it's a huge rivalry per se, but if I had to pick a rival, it probably would be HeroesHype. So I don't know. It's just a big group of friends playing against each other, honestly.
That's what I like to hear. Mantis says, I'll be rooting hard for HeroesHype and LFM during phase 1. I like to see what they can do, as am I. You were saying, Argy?
I was going to say, like, both of them will cheer for each other when they're not playing each other.
Yeah, definitely.
Basically, is what's going to happen.
Exactly.
And I think
definitely be cheering for my boys.
I think that's really cool and something specifically to keep in mind. Before we started, we chatted a little bit about your opening schedule for LFM. Not the easiest progression, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like, let me know if this is a fair assessment. Those first 2-3 weeks are going to be you guys effectively being thrown into the fire. You're not just wading into the HGC, like you're going right into the deep end. How does your team feel about that, going up against those more difficult opponents at the beginning?
Personally, I think it's going to be good for us. I think we play a doubleheader. The first weekend we play SSG and then now Team 12. So obviously Team 12 is probably the number 1 team in North America right now. I think it's good to get out of the way first. I think it's great to be able to play them and see how they exploit our weaknesses and watch how they exploit our weaknesses and then how we can counter that. And then just see what they do well and how they do it. I think us versus Space Station, I think that'll actually be a really good series. Personally, I think of all the rosters in the HGC, they might have downgraded the most. Jay Schritt, in my opinion, is a bit of a risky pickup. And so I think that'll be a really good series. The first series might be a bit of nerves going on both teams, but I think it'll be a good series personally. And I think Team 12, it should be a good series, but I don't know. I don't know what they've been planning in the offseason. They might bring out some weird stuff. We'll see.
Yeah.
Justin likes his diva.
Oh God, I'm scared.
Argy, if you were in LFM's position, you're going to HGC. Would you want to go up against? Would you want that same schedule? Just go right into the deep end?
Well, I think opening with Space Station, it's not. They're not considered one of the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of easing into it. You can get your feet wet, but then you're looking forward to the next match, which is going to be the top team in the region. So it'll be an exciting first week. Definitely a bit nerve-wracking if I was in that position. I don't know.
Yeah.
As Dre has said, his team doesn't get tilted, so I think they'll be level-headed and not get too excited or overly emotional. I think you'll be just looking at. I don't know. I don't know what the phrase is. I'm losing it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get you.
You know what I mean.
Real Crunk just says no excuses in competition. Win or get out.
That's how a lot of fans look at it. Honestly, they say, if you're not performing well, then
if you're not first, you're last, right?
Yeah, that's it, right?
oh, Argy Bobby out here. But you brought up a really cool point, Dre, that I didn't even think about. Like going up against teams like Team 12 early in the season offers you opportunities, because you said you can pick apart how they dissect any weaknesses that you guys have, and that allows you to course correct over the course of the first phase. So you may end up very well having a stronger back into the first phase than you would have otherwise, because you have these things pointed out to you early on. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and that's what I think we're looking at. We're not going to come out in 4-0 our first 4 games, probably not. But honestly, we're going to take the experience that these good teams give us, and we're going to work with it. And then we're going to hopefully have a better end of the first season, and then coming into the split 2, we're going to be looking at maybe taking some of these top teams down. And just the experience of playing against these good teams, I think, is in a tournament setting especially, is really going to help us out.
I gotta agree. Going into the HGC, we've talked about a lot regarding LFM, but I'm curious to hear, Dre, like, what are some of your team's goals for the first phase? We've kind of touched on, you want to identify some of the potential weaknesses early on, but as a team, do you guys have any specific goals? Like, we want to be this certain record, we want to try to beat these teams, we want to be here. Like, how have you guys approached that?
Looking at all the teams in North America right now, I don't think it's crazy to see us in that 5th, 4th position. Honestly, I think for me, Team 12 and Tempo and Freedom are kind of all vying for that 1, 2, 3 spot. Probably Team 12 ahead of the rest, but looking at Old Gods, I don't think their roster's amazing personally. And I said same thing about Space Station. I think they were also a downgrade. So I think we can definitely take a series off both those teams. And then HeroesHype, they've obviously been working hard in the off season, but so have we. And I know we can probably take them down. So we're not looking at just getting 7th, 8th. We're not looking at just avoiding the Crucible. We're going to be vying for that top 4 spot.
I like it, man. I like it. It's like, it's realistic and ambitious at the same time. I appreciate that. Alex49 said, in Open last season, Import Support lost bad to HeroesHype early and ended up beating them. I think they'll grow to where the bar is set. Would you agree that your team is good at like playing to the level of your opponent? So it's like, if they're super good, then like we just rise to that occasion. Is that something that you guys feel is a characteristic of the team?
It's an interesting question. I think we definitely have our own style of play, whether or not who we're up against. So I think we, for the most part, will stick to our game plan and try to get what we know how to win. So I don't think it's as much who we're playing against. We definitely respect our opponents, but I think we like to play our own game and have our own style rather than adapting to the opponent. That's cool.
I can appreciate that. I would say though, I agree with Alex 49s in a lot of ways that LFM is a team that to me does not crack under pressure. Going into the whole playoffs and everything, I mean, Heroes Are These Sports were using the even in death banners like 3 months before the Crucible. Like they had a very specific goal and progression. A lot of people in the community felt like that was pretty much going to be a fated battle. But you guys going into the playoffs, pressure's on. You don't buckle. You actually upset them going into the Crucible itself. So I do think that there's something to be said for you guys' ability to rise to whatever bar is set for you. So if you go up against these stronger teams, like let's say, you're going up against Team 12, they win the first game, and you guys win the second one, like you get some late team fight, and you're like, all right, let's go. And you win that game, I think you guys are going to be fired up. You're going to be looking to close that whole series.
You're definitely right. Especially in the Crucible, our first 2 games, we fell. We got stomped the first 2 games. Our draft, like, I don't even know what was going on. Honestly, like, we were just like, all right, let's chill out, let's relax, let's play comfort stuff, know what we do. And after we took the 3rd game, we were feeling pretty good. But after we took that 4th game, we were feeling really good. We were like, let's go. People were getting a little hype. And I can't wait for that, because our team is kind of quiet for the most part. We don't have like the best comms in the world. Some of the members of our team are kind of quiet, but when it comes to that tournament setting, definitely turns on the heat a bit, and so we get a little more comms, get a little more of that flow. It feels pretty good.
That's a really interesting perspective. Like I said, Argy and I have seen you guys progress through the amateur scene for a long time. Droplet says, why does Swabs and Magoo don't like this? What? I'm going to assume that's some kind of
I don't get it.
Inside joke meme. Oh, all right. Well, Droplets is just going off the rails, my friend.
Droplets is an interesting character.
Question marks. Yeah, fair enough. But one thing that's really interesting to me, here in the HeroesHype community, we like to give insight to prospective competitive players in the amateur scene. Some behind the scenes look at what it's like to be a competitor. You guys prepared for a long time to go into the playoffs, and you said something that stuck out to me. It's like, the first 2 games I don't even know what the draft was. Is there something to be said for, as much as you prepare for something, like once you're in the actual moment, you can like kind of go on autopilot to a degree. You're like, oh wow, like if we thought this through, like we wouldn't have made that decision. Is that something that you guys have faced?
Definitely. Like I think we were playing Dragonshire in the Crucible, and we had thought of a draft before. We were like, yeah, let's do this. This is gonna work. And then we got in the game and just got completely shut down. And we were like, okay, obviously our planning and stuff, it just didn't work at all. So it's tough when you have to completely change up your game plan in the middle of a series. Say like, all right, this is just not working. We got to change it up. And it's a bit tough, but there's always something to fall back on. You've always got those heroes and that composition you fall back on, which is what I was talking about with how we like to play our own style. And we know what style that is. We like to take team fights, and we like to take them well. And personally, I think we're a very good team fighting team. So I don't know. We like to have our own style, and yeah, it's tough sometimes though when we gotta switch it up in the middle of a series.
I'm liking to agree. I mean, if anything, it was a great experience and opportunity for you guys to develop as a team going into the HGC. I'm sure there's been no small measure of preparation for you guys going into the HGC. And now that it's specifically 2018, those teams that may have rested on their laurels, like, well, we're not going to BlizzCon, we're not going to Crucible, so let's just take this time to like recuperate and recharge. The teams don't feel like that anymore. So they're all ready to go in. How has preparation gone for you guys going into the HGC? Like, how much time did you guys take off after the Crucible and stuff, and how did that whole progression go?
So let's see. After the Crucible, it was probably it was either a month and a half before we were secured that spot into the HGC, and then right away we started scrimming. We got our coach here, Physio, who's been working alongside us to get the best possible results, and he's been wonderful. Honestly, he has put in a lot of work, a lot of time that I didn't really expect out of him, and it's been brilliant so far. We've constructed specific game plans on certain maps that we like. He's analyzed other teams, especially our first couple matches, and honestly, I feel pretty confident going into that first week just because the amount of preparation that he's done and that he's put in with us as a team. So just in the off season, I think we've had some great practice.
That's awesome. Hero Physio is no stranger to the HeroesHype scene, right, Argy?
Yeah, for sure. I've had him many times.
I actually didn't know that he joined as the coach. News to me.
Mm-hmm.
That was what, like a couple weeks ago that it was announced?
Yeah, that was probably maybe a month ago.
Wow.
Or so.
That's awesome.
It was a big surprise because I knew he had left the scene to do other things, and then I see him come back. I'm like, dang, this is legit.
He's like, I try to get away, they pull me back in. Well, good job on bringing him back into the fold. Last week we had Reno on, who gave us a lot of perspective on the management side of it. Something that I feel a lot of amateur teams don't really utilize is the concept of a coach. And you said, since he's joined, it's helped you to feel much more confident about your first week and beyond going into the HGC. Do you think coaching is underrated in a way in the region, or how is going from a team without a coach to being a team with a coach now? Like, how do you feel about coaching after being on both sides of it?
I think coaching is extremely necessary in a lot of ways, in a lot of games. I think maybe HOTS isn't a great example personally because we don't have maybe a lot of coaches in the scene, or that I've seen at least, that are willing to coach. But if you look at a game like League of Legends, I mean, every single top team has a coach. I mean, you're not going to see a team or a top team in the League of Legends that doesn't have a coach. It's just, I think it's a vital part of the team, not just helping the team with in-game stuff, but out-of-game stuff as well. Relationships, communication. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into building a good team, and I think a coach helps extremely with that.
You hear that, kids? All the prospective amateur players, having that 6-man and outside perspective, it offers a world of difference. Droplet says he likes your jersey there, Argy.
It's a pretty nice jersey, I gotta say.
I haven't picked the Overwatch team yet. I don't know.
I have not watched any of the Overwatch League yet, so I don't know what I'm getting into.
I'm just going to say to both of you, I'm pretty sure black and gold would look great on both of you.
Hey.
Sell out.
Hey, whatever it takes. Real crunk, you pay your coaches with coupons? Lol. Is that why every pro team with a coach has a discount code? Their team name says droplets? The memes are real.
There's one problem with that I noticed.
What's that?
I tried to use Kala for a discount on the Tempo store and it didn't work.
Ooh.
GG.
Ouch.
Get on top of that. But no, that's I'm really glad to hear you guys have a coach, and it's been something that's greatly benefited you. I've been an advocate for the idea of having outside perspective even in the amateur scene, because it's a growth thing for both sides. Coaches at the amateur level get the experience to then potentially become coaches for HGC teams should their team get into the HGC. It's not like, as far as growing that infrastructure and that idea, like you said, compared to a game like League of Legends, I think stuff like that would be very vital. So I hope that's something that we see more of going into the next year.
I'm hoping that it eventually gets to a point where Overwatch is already, obviously there's just a lot more money in those other games.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as this game is pretty fantastic already. Like, working behind the scenes, I got to see just how good this game can be. And I think more support will come quickly. Yeah.
You think it'll be imported?
No, it'll just be it'll be created in-house, I guess. But I think we'll get there to that point where, there's a lot of infrastructure within the scene, and each team will have a coach, and possibly an assistant coach, but they'll have a staff around them working with them to make it like the best, basically how Korea has it. You know, they have not necessarily a team house, but like you have a space that your team can go and practice. You have a staff working with you to create the best practice environment so you can improve the most, you know. I think that'll happen sooner rather than later.
I project by the end of the year we'll see some serious strides in that direction. And like by mid 2019, it's gonna be like, how did we not have this? That's my guess. Just as someone on the outside. Dropper said, any team need a water boy who means murky? If you're out there looking for a murky man, guys, Open Division will be here soon.
But the best murky is already on a team.
Oh, rip. GG.
Zugrug. Sorry.
Zug is a pretty good murky.
You know, one thing that I thought was really cool, Drayda, the last time we had you on the show is that you talked a little bit about your friendship with Hecker MJ and how, like, you know, he was there for a lot of the major milestones throughout your career in Heroes of the Storm. And then when he had stepped away, it was a big change, you know, like having him there. And then, like, you know, you're kind of finding your own identity in a lot of ways. Just like, you know, I'm used to having my good buddy here. And like, I got to move forward without that. How when he found out that you made it into the HCC, how did that go?
It's almost a double-edged sword, you could say. He was obviously very happy for me, extremely happy. I mean, he just knows that this has been something I've wanted for a long time. But at the same time, we were definitely projected to win Dorm for LSU in this upcoming season. So there's obviously a bit of a disconnect there because I was, one of the main captains of the LSU team. So leaving that kind of left a hole to be filled. So he was obviously very supportive of me, and it still is to this day. And because of that, I'm like basically the coach of the new LSU dorm team. So trying to help them out as much as I can because they're still my boys. But it's been great so far.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that part, Ergie. You can't do both.
Yep, can't do both.
Wow.
Speaking of dorm, I kind of wanted to ask. Obviously, they interviewed your parents at dorm this past year, and it sparked the stay positive and don't die. But I wanted to know how supportive and how have your family reacted to all of this, like the ups and the downs, like losing your chance to get in and then finding out, you got in. Like, what's it been like for them?
They've, in the past, they were very questionable about it because, especially going to school for engineering, they were pretty skeptical about it. And, I spent a lot of time gaming, and they were like, "This is going to lead to nothing. This is hurting your grades, blah blah blah." Mm-hmm. But when we finally made top 4 for Heroes of the Dorm, and my dad ended up coming to Vegas and getting to see the tournament in real life, he absolutely loved it, and I think it very much changed his opinion on what it means to be a professional gamer. I mean, he saw the atmosphere, the crowd and everything. It's almost like a real sport, he said. And I think that completely flipped his mindset on the whole thing. And now they're very supportive of it because they understand that this is something that I don't get a lot of chances in life to do this kind of thing. And so they're like, you should do it now. You should follow your dreams. So they have been very supportive of me.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, man, that's amazing to hear. Like, I think that's something that a lot of amateur players run into. Is not necessarily pushback from their family, but just like a measure of skepticism because esports as a concept is still growing in terms of like mainstream consideration. But seeing things like Heroes of the Dorm, the heroic forts, like this isn't a hypothetical. Like there are people like this is a whole thing. So I'm glad to see that your folks turned around on it. Like one thing that was really interesting to me, Argy, like when we had Kevin on here, And he was like, yeah, we didn't even like tell our parents until we were like going to Vegas. I was floored, man. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know how my parents would have handled all that. But stay positive and don't die.
Yeah, with how chill Kevin takes everything, I'm kind of surprised he told his parents at all.
It's like, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, went to Vegas. Had a pretty good time. Crunk just said, can the Winds play Cho? Dre, you gonna coach the Winds?
Oh, does he play the Cho? I'm not sure. I always play the Cho. So,
I don't think I've ever seen him play
I don't
Cho.
know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he plays the Cho.
Next level strats.
It's gotta learn.
But, Dre, thanks so much for giving us insight on the emotional journey. I don't know how else to describe it than that. Getting into the HGC, we've had the privilege of following you from the beginning to here in a lot of ways. But I want to pick your brain about the game as a player as well. And this is something I was really curious to hear about. Not necessarily concerned about going to HGC for you guys, but LFM, like you said, is a team that really excels at team fighting. I think some of your most impressive play have been in a team fight, especially like playing against HeroesHype Esports when you're trading heroics, and it's like there's a very specific window for this to work out for them, and then you guys pull it off. But the 2018 changes has augmented the overall progression quite a bit. How has your team adapted to the 2018 gameplay changes?
It's an interesting question. I think as a team, we're still learning to figure out the meta. I don't think any team has completely figured out the meta yet. It's changed a lot over the past, especially the nerf for the double support. We, as a team, liked playing double support for the most part. We thought we were very good at it, very good at playing it. And we've kind of seen definitely a fall in the double support. Maybe you can still run it in certain compositions, but for the most part, we're reverting back to the single support blow up style for the most part. And I think it's getting a bit used to as a team. Sometimes we're a little slackish on the hard engage, instant blow up team fights. Sometimes it takes a lot of coordination, and sometimes I feel like we lack in that area a bit as a team. So it's been a slow process of getting used to the new meta.
Absolutely. That's one of the things, Argy, I'm most excited about going in an HGC. Like, the patch came out today that upped the damage. And I think that's going to be an added wrinkle in and of itself, because now, like, some of the bite is back in terms of the structure race. But for the longest time before this recent patch came out, I just felt like you could run like a heavy wave clear comp and just like play the map and play around opponents. And I'm just always curious to hear how teams that feel their strengths are more in the aspect of team fighting feels about stuff like that. Have you had a chance to play the patch today, Art?
I played one game of Blaze after work. And it was on BOE. It didn't go very well because I don't think he's necessarily good on BOE. But
yeah, I can see that probably not being.
I'm really happy with the night changes and the fire bat changes.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's huge. With Warhead being out of HCC, I don't think the boss changes really matter that much. I mean, and it's out of HL as well, so like it's kind of irrelevant, but it makes it a lot less. I guess the games will go longer on that map. That the big thing for me is I think the games will be longer now. As they said, like across the board, games were shorter by a significant margin, and that was a problem because we like having shorter games compared to like League or Dota, but I don't like playing a game and it being over in 8 minutes.
That's fair.
It just feels like, why am I here? Especially with with all the games usually being stomps in the Hero League, whether it's winning or losing. My biggest hope is that Sylvanas goes down.
Oh,
like no one plays her anymore. I really don't like her.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with Sylvanas. She just became super good all of a sudden. Like,
well, I think especially on maps with Knights or Firebats,
Yep.
Merc Queen just like,
Mhm.
well, we're just gonna win the game.
And then
Yeah,
and then you
the
get
Night
like,
Camp was definitely too strong.
and then you get like possession at 7. I think that's the talent tier she gets
Yeah.
that at, and it's just like,
That's
oh,
what Sylvanas God Kyle K777 does.
it's just like, well, we just got the night camp, and I just converted like half your wave, so GG.
Yeah, and then you can use possession on catapults in the event that you are up against catapults.
It's
Somehow,
kind of good actually. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, well, we're getting the reason you got the keep for free. I don't know. She's definitely an interesting hero right now. I don't think you'll see her in HGC really, because I think those players can just beat her, whereas in Hero League it's much more unorganized and people don't know how to deal with it. I'm really looking forward to see how the mouth changes affect HGC now. I think he'll be top tier again to start the year.
Yeah,
which I know it's kind of a repeat of last year, but
I remember that.
it won't be as silly.
Yeah, I think
Compared
Mouth's
to
gonna
last
be
time.
really good. I don't know why they keep reworking Mouth. Honestly, I don't know.
We're
He was
on like the 4th
he was very
version.
basic. He's definitely more interesting now. That's for sure.
He's more
but-
active.
Having an infinite heal over time that gets reactivated every time you use your W. Okay.
could be pretty decent.
We might even see Mouth solo lane. I'm not even lying. Like, I don't know. He's pretty strong.
He could do it before he lost Moonburn.
Yeah.
Actually, he could do it now with Celestial Alignment. Like he just pokes.
Yeah.
out.
The
I was
auto
about to
attack
say.
stuff. Yeah. It's kind of
He
gross.
just can't clear the waves as fast, but he just pushes the other person out of the lane.
Yeah, he just literally auto attacks him to death and then heals himself. Like, I don't know.
I don't know, man. I actually thought that was like kind of a hidden gem in the overall scheme of things. Like for a long time, I was a strong proponent of secondary support Lily and having her be the solo laner because she kicked out respectable damage with the E build and she had the self sustain. And that's exactly what auto attack Malfurion does as well now. So it's just like if I'm Sonya and I'm like I see Malfurion on the other side of the lane, I'm like LOL, like what? And then like I'm getting rooted and then just getting auto attacked in the face like all day and getting kited. It's like this feels kind of bad.
Yeah, you look at heroes like Vala and Greyman, I'm like, I'm gonna go block this game. You see Malfurion with Celestial Alignment, I'm gonna go block because of him and only him.
I want to see it. I want to see some traded. We don't want to give away any secret strategies, but if you broke out the the DPS Malfurion in HGC,
Let me just say
opposed.
in scrims, I don't play the solo lane. Swabs does, but he was playing solo lane against a Malfurion against one team, and he was like, "Guys, I can't do anything. I'm just getting owned. Like I'm just getting auto attacked to death." And then we lost, and we were like, I don't know what I could have done. I was just getting auto attacked to death. Like it's so silly. I don't know.
I mean, I struggle to find what hero could really deal with him on a consistent basis. Like maybe Zagara, but that's just like anyone with high wave clear, but you're just kind of like avoiding the issue rather than dealing with it. It's just like
yeah. If you have to pick a Zag to counter a specific hero in lane, and then they're better in team fights, you've kind of already given up part of the game plan. So, yep.
I wonder, maybe hear me out. Thrall, maybe
Thrall did get better. I think Thrall did get a little better with the basic attack.
It'll be tough to pick Thrall, just because there's so many other heroes that are better, but.
That'd be a little wild. Daycreeper said Lily beats Mouth? Really?
Well, in the blind, maybe.
Yeah,
Lily's a pretty good laner.
I do like some solo lane Lily, but I just feel
this is how we're going to get back to double support. Is Malfurion's going to be the solo lane?
Yeah, I wouldn't even doubt it, honestly.
We're chuckling, but yeah.
What's a good map for it? Maybe Infernal Shrines, I guess, would be a decent one. Like you just go Malf and then Ooh, Malf and Alex Straza. Ooh, that's
Ooh,
scary.
yeah, I could see it. Mm-hmm.
Droplet said Illidan wins. I guess, he has the evasion in the base kit. I could see that.
They're fighting over Taronda.
I don't know if Illidan wins. I don't know. I don't know if you're going to win against a good Malf. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
He's a hero in his current state. Like, you can't really trade with Malf.
Yeah. Well, like,
Hard.
You're not gonna win. As
long as Illidan doesn't get on you midway through the lane, you're gonna win.
Yeah, if you freeze the lane on your side, it's just like, well,
with how often Windfire hits compared to when you have evasion up, yeah.
It's interesting. Bring back the Murden solo lane like old Savage.
And Kevin, man.
Ooh,
Hey man, hey. I like some DPS Murden, to be honest. Kite Refruit during evasion. Zombie Tro use got. I'm telling you, man. The more I'm sitting here thinking about it, the more we're talking about this.
Scary. The scarier it sounds.
Hey, my next Hero League game, if I gotta play solo lane and he's open.
Yeah. Well, rip
Illusion Grant of
Samuro
Strength
too, because doesn't Celestial Element reveal too?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So it'll reveal which ones are clones. You can't pick Sam into it.
Man, I want to
You're
play
just kinda
some solo
screwed, I
lane
guess.
Valkyrian now.
Yeah, go try it. I'm telling you, you're going to have a good time.
Pit Shogun.
Next time I do Team League, that's all I'm gonna do is pick Malfurion and solo lane.
It's like, it's okay, guys. I'm solo lane.
That's how I'm gonna get GM.
Heard it here first, guys. Gazlo? I don't know. But I don't think he wins that. I'm sorry. I like Gaslit, but I don't think he's gonna win all that person. But yeah, some of the damage changes of 2018 with the patch that came out today stands to make things a bit interesting. Trader, like you said, you don't play the solo lane normally. You're like the DPS ranged assassin, Brightwing specialist. Memory serves. Yeah.
I play mean Brightwing. I like Brightwing a lot, actually.
Brightwing's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, I love Brightwing.
You're actually one of the players that like kind of brought me around to a degree on Brightwing, because in general I don't really like that hero.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, if you understand a team fight well enough to get that perfectly timed polymorph after you've soaked the lane and gotten your team a tier fight, like a talent tier advantage.
Yeah.
I don't know. Could be pretty decent.
She was really good at the time. I think she's fallen off a bit now, but at the time she was really strong.
A question just popped into my head. I was watching McIntyre stream the other day, and I asked him if he thought we would see any Valera in HGC. Anyone that's played recently knows that Valera, she got nerfed down to 2.5 seconds today. I still feel like that's kind of long still.
No, she's in the trash, 100%.
Are you kidding? Are you serious?
Yes, I'm totally kidding.
I was about to say. So, Drayden, my question for you is, do you think we'll see Valera play in HGC?
No, I don't think we will. No. I don't know. Valera, to me, she's obviously very strong in Hero League, but it's just because she's very good at punishing people that are making mistakes and out of position. But I don't think that'll happen as much in competitive. I think if we see any stealth, I think it'll be the new Zeratul. I think the new Zeratul has a decent amount of potential. But Valera, I'm not sure. I don't think she offers enough, honestly. And I think if you have heroes that can reveal her out of her stealth before she can get on a target, she's kind of lackluster to me in competitive play.
I can see that.
She loses a lot of power if she can't open from stealth.
Yeah.
That's fair. I don't know. It's just curious because I was like, a teleport 2.5 second silence. Like, I don't know, man. But yeah, if you can pop her out of stealth reliably, I can see how that could be troublesome too.
I mean, I used to play a lot of Valera too on the old LFM. I mean, we played Valera a lot, and we had a lot of success with it too. But I'm not sure. She just doesn't feel as strong to me. I mean, obviously she feels strong in HL, player in Hero League sometimes, but yeah, I'm not sure about competitive.
Okay, That's fair. Well, we've gone for about an hour now. It's been really cool to hear your insight, not only as a member of LFM, but as a player. We always try to pick the brains of the sharpest minds in the region, and now you're in there. You're a top 8 competitive player in the HGC. So thanks so much for joining us, man.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a lot of fun. Always love coming on here. Hopefully having me again soon after we're top 4 in NA.
Yeah, well, when you're flying out for the mid-season brawl and Western Clash, we'll try to get you back on here again.
I've never been to Europe. It'd be something awesome. Yet, that's it. Yeah.
Any shout outs you want to give before we let you
go? Just shout out to LFM as an org. Shout out to my friends and family for always supporting me, and shout out to my fans who always give me more motivation to be better.
All right. Cool. Argy, the floor is yours. Well, let's go to Argy's corner for a little bit here. What do you got to say, Argy?
First of all, I don't know why they buffed Hanzo.
I agree. I'll play a lot of Hanzo. Honestly, I think he's pretty strong. If anything, I expected to see some nerfs, and I don't know.
Second, tomorrow is another episode, another HeroesHype Amateur Series tournament being casted by Lauren, who's on here with us right now. Hi. If you didn't know already, and Kala. So the dynamic duo is coming back. And it's going to be great. We need to sign up. I don't know how many teams. I haven't looked. I don't know how many teams you have signed up right now. But it's going to be one of the better tournaments to start the year. You should be there. You should sign up your team if you haven't. So, and lastly, black and gold. Hashtag black and gold. Sell out.
There we go. I like it. I actually forgot that they buffed Hanzo. I remember reading, I was like, you're going to make his W spread tighter?
Yeah, I don't know.
Wait.
That hero's really good.
I read that and I was like, oh, okay, so we're going to be seeing
I also remember when they said Hanzo could only go Q build.
What a time to be alive.
W build.
Yeah,
so guys.
I think the auto attack talent at 1 is the best, personally.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, we asked about Valeria Dreaded. Do you I guess it's something of a loaded question. Do you see Hanzo showing up in the HGC?
Yeah, I think that hero is broken, honestly. Like, I don't know. The hero does so much damage, and then his ult is really good. Like, you don't have a lot of ranged carries like Hanzo with an initiation ult. Like, you don't really see that much out of... I mean, usually the tanks are the ones that have the initiation. But now we've got a global arrow that has a really nasty stun if you can land it. I think we're definitely going to see some Hanzo.
I can see some cheekiness, like you're trying to channel an altar on Towers of Doom and you just get like pegged in the face from across the planet and then someone else jumps on. Yeah.
Yep.
I can see some really interesting stuff, especially at the HTC level. But yeah, again, Dreaded, thanks for joining us on the show tonight. To those in the audience that play competitively in the amateur scene, Dreaded is proof positive that it can happen. We followed imported support throughout the past year, and here he is now in the HGC. So this is a really good time to sign up for things like HeroesHype Amateur Series to get that practice now going into the Open Division, because it's not just a theory anymore. There's very much a realistic pattern and path to the HGC, and look to the bottom of the screen to see Exhibit A, because it's real. But my name is Lauren. Always a good time hanging out with Argy. You know, Drady, they don't make him like this guy anymore. You know
I know,
that?
right?
Yeah,
I know.
They don't make him like this guy anymore.
I know.
Been fun hanging out with you, the human highlight reel. I hope they start calling you that. When you start making these plays in HCC.
I'm just waiting for Gilly to say it. That'd be a pretty
nice name to have. I'm ready.
I've been calling that for half a year now. So if you hear that, this is where it started. But Yeah, tomorrow night, 9 o'clock Eastern, HeroesHype Amateur Series. I'll be joining Kaloran, the old duos back from HeroesHype Temple Storm Series. Really excited for that. As always, Tuesdays, right around 9 Eastern, we have these shows. HeroesHype Live, Water Cooler. Come in, get involved, join the conversation. These also go out onto in the podcast form on things like iTunes and stuff like that. So plenty of places to check out what's going on with HeroesHype. But yeah, for now we're gonna call it. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much.
See you later.